Hi everyone, and welcome to the February 2025 edition of the Presale Pulse, a real estate show dedicated to everything happening in real estate across Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. I'm your host, Susanna Gonsalves, and I'm joined by none other than the Fraser Valley's very own Brittany Reimer. Britt, with Valentine's Day around the corner, how are you feeling? Are you feeling the love for the market this year?
Well, Suze, after the whirlwind of a month that we had in January, I'd say it's just slightly complicated, right? Like most relationships.
Yeah, last month felt less like a rom-com and more like a telenovela with everything that went down, but we'll touch on that in a little bit.
Yes. So we have a lot to talk about this month. Let's jump right into it. All right. So it's time for our macro update. Now, the Bank of Canada delivered another 25 basis point rate cut at its latest meeting, bringing the overnight rate down to 3%.
Now, up until recently, the general consensus was that rate cuts would slow down in 2025, with forecasts predicting just a couple more adjustments throughout the year. But with uncertainty around potential tariffs, that outlook is shifting. Analysts are now suggesting we could see cuts at every Bank of Canada meeting through October, bringing the rate down to 1.5% by year end, depending on severity of these tariffs.
Yeah, well, it was a relief when Trump announced last minute the 30-day delay to the tariffs, literally the day before they were set to take effect. There's still a lot of unease and uncertainty to whether they'll come into play in the coming months ahead. And you're right, we definitely thought those rates were teetering off.
Now, at first glance, lower interest rates might seem like great news for real estate. After all, lower rates usually mean lower mortgage costs, right? Unfortunately, the reality is far more complex than that. The first and the most obvious is the effect that tariffs being placed on Canadian goods entering the U.S. would have on Canada. To put things into perspective, about 75% of all Canadian exports are to the U.S. These increasing costs to American buyers may cause them to begin looking elsewhere for cheaper imports.
Yeah, and certainly if that happens, weaker demand for Canadian products would mean lower revenues for local businesses, leading to potentially to layoffs and more of an economic slowdown.
This is why analysts warn that if these tariffs take effect and remain in place for a year, Canada would be further into recession. Projections suggest tariffs of this size could wipe out Canadian growth for 3 years and reduce our GDP significantly, while unemployment could rise up to 8%.
Yeah, and all of this really comes at a time when Canada is already bracing for an economic slowdown due to reduced immigration, a key driver of the GDP growth in recent years. With both factors hitting simultaneously, the economic outlook could become a little bit more challenging for us here over the next 12 months, which is not what we want to be talking about.
No kidding. And unfortunately, that's not where the concerns end. If the U.S. moves forward with these tariffs, Canada has already signaled that it will respond with tariffs in its own. Nearly 50% of Canada imports coming from the U.S., price increases would be unavoidable, and ultimately, the costs would be passed on to consumers.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if these tariffs get enacted, inflation becomes inevitable and could push Canada into a period of low economic growth paired with high inflation.
So this creates a tough environment for the Bank of Canada. Lowering rates will help to stimulate growth, but they also must be cautious not to fuel further inflationary pressures.
Yeah, unfortunately, what ends up happening is likely out of our control, and all we can really do right now is try to stay calm, cool and collected, and wait to see how all of this unfolds.
All right, let's dive into what's been happening in the pre-sale market.
Yep, my favorite part. So January was a quiet month for new launches. We didn't see any projects come to the market, but that's not surprising. With the holidays just wrapping up, most people are easing back into their routines, and buying a home isn't usually the top of mind for the first few weeks of the new year.
Yeah, exactly. With Lunar New Year being in January, it doesn't leave enough time for projects to ramp up after Christmas and target that Lunar New Year timeline. So I think a lot of projects just decided to wait until after. We also heard and saw that the holiday slowdown stretched into the first few weeks of January, only picking up slightly around the Lunar New Year, as many projects did roll out major incentives to try and pick things up.
Yeah, we haven't heard too much yet in terms of how well those incentives are hitting the market and performing, but I'd expect we'll start to see some sales success messages trickling in over the next couple weeks across the board on programs, just to keep that momentum strong leading into the spring.
Yeah, although so far, I'm not convinced that we've seen a ton of traction.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think incentives at this point, it oftentimes isn't necessarily just a pricing isolated challenge in our market. There's so many other factors at play, such as just overall buyer sentiment, that those incentives don't always move the needle.
Yeah, so I think a lot of developers have their eye on that. What has been the traction? They're essentially using these active projects as a litmus test. Has market demand started to pick up, especially with stronger incentives at play? Developers want to see real traction before deciding to move forward in their own launches.
So speaking of upcoming launches, in February, we're expecting 13 new projects to launch, bringing just under 1,300 units to the marketplace.
And there are two clear trends among these projects. Almost all of them are wood frame and townhome developments, and the majority are located in the Fraser Valley, Brett.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, given the market conditions. Now, we're still in a very price-sensitive environment, and buyers can get significantly more value for their money in the Fraser Valley compared to Greater Vancouver.
And with less investors currently in the market, it's much harder for concrete towers to move forward. There's simply more inventory that needs to be absorbed. Wood frame developments, on the other hand, are typically around 100 units, making them much easier to bring into market in the current climate.
Yeah, and just because a project is wood frame located in the Fraser Valley doesn't actually mean it's completely smooth sailing.
Definitely not. There are still many hurdles, and I think the biggest sign of that is the number of launches that keep getting pushed back.
Yeah, and I think we can all name a few projects that were originally slated to launch in fall of 2024, only to get pushed to early 2025, and still no confirmed launch date as of today. At this point, your guess is as good as mine on when half of these projects are actually going to hit the market.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's move on to some exciting projects that we know are launching, starting with one that's generating a lot of buzz in West Coquitlam, Wilford by Allaire Living. We're actually filming in the beautiful sales gallery right now. Wilford is bringing 92 thoughtfully designed homes ranging from 1 to 3 bedrooms to this growing community.
Yeah, what I really love about Wilford is the prime location, tucked away in a quiet cul-de-sac, so you get that peaceful residential feel, still while being connected to everything that you need.
Yeah, you're on a traffic calm street, just steps from neighborhood parks, making it a really ideal spot for a growing family. And when it comes to day-to-day convenience, you're only 5 minutes from both Lougheed Centre and Maillardville, so you have plenty of options for shopping, dining, and essentials.
Yeah, that's right. And no matter where you work, this location is super convenient. Within a few minutes, you have access to the highway that will take you to Burnaby, Vancouver, or Surrey.
Gotta say, Allaire has done an incredible job optimizing their floor plans. Their 2-bedroom homes at around 730 square feet managed to include a kitchen island, a dedicated dining area, and a walk-in closet in the primary bedroom that also fits a king-size bed. They've clearly taken the time to make sure their plans are efficient without compromising.
Absolutely. And these efficient plans extend throughout all of their floor plans, which range from 1 beds to 3 beds. So there really is a product type for everybody here at Wilford.
Yeah, and let's take a minute to talk about Allaire Living. Right now, with so much market uncertainty, buyers are definitely thinking about who they are buying from. At Wilford, it's reassuring to know that Allaire has such a very strong track record.
Yeah, and they've already delivered over 350 homes, and in the Coquitlam area alone, they have over 300 homes already built or currently underway. So they're not just an experienced home builders, they are true experts in the Coquitlam neighborhood.
That reputation really shined through at the recent Realtor event, which was a huge success. Over 130 groups attended, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. I probably saw some of you here.
Yeah, excitement is definitely building around this program. Everybody's getting excited for the low-rise condo to be launching in West Coquitlam this spring.
Yeah, Wilford is now open for VIP previews, so don't wait. Book your appointment today and secure your home. All right, now let's move on to our next project feature, one that's truly a rare opportunity, Rockford by Cressey. Rockford offers a collection of 1 to 3 in den homes right in the heart of the Ocean Park community.
So exciting for Ocean Park. They haven't seen a new development like this in ages, so lots of demand. These aren't your typical investor-driven condos. These are homes with thoughtfully designed, single-family living in mind, creating spaces where residents can truly settle in and call home.
Yeah, agreed. Now, for those you don't know, Ocean Park is a very beloved neighborhood in South Surrey, very close to Crescent Beach. It's one of those neighborhoods where the locals don't really want the word to get out how awesome it is. It's one of those you know if you know type of deals. There hasn't been new development like this in Ocean Park in literally decades, so Rockford is truly a rare offering. Over 50% of the homes are over 1,000 square feet, so you're still getting that single family feel, but without the upkeep of a detached home. No shoveling snow, no yard work, single level living. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
I would love to never shovel the snow again, especially after the week we've just had. That single family also extends into the interiors. Even the 1-beds come with a full-size 30-inch fridge, while larger homes have a 36-inch fridge, plus that 36-inch gas stove. Now, that is rarely ever seen in condo living.
Yeah, and Cressey's carried that thoughtful design into the bathrooms as well. Most primary en-suites come with double vanities, separate tubs and showers, and most of the homes, including the 1-beds, have a powder room.
Such a great feature. It definitely adds that degree of separation when you have guests over. Just another way these homes feel more like a single family residence.
Yeah, this project has been such a welcome addition to the Ocean Park community, especially for those who feel like they are ready to downsize but still want to maintain that lifestyle, be comfortable in their home, and stay in the neighborhood that they have lived in for 50 years in some cases, and also get some good perks.
Yeah, and you're talking about those amazing amenities, right? Imagine starting your day, morning stroll along the beach, then coming home to unwind at a Nordic spa, complete with a hot tub and cold plunge. I have to say, Cressey has done an incredible job curating these amenities for this program. Especially love the courtyard. It's central focal point of the development. It really embraces that friendly, tight-knit community atmosphere that Ocean Park is known to bring.
Yeah, you said it well. There is a grand courtyard, the spa, as you mentioned, gym and social lounge, so lots of places to gather with friends, family, and neighbors. I also think one of the biggest challenges of transitioning from a single-family home to a condo is giving up that yard or outdoor space. But Cressey has really thought this through as well. Every home has a generously sized balcony designed for actual usability. So the show home has a 40-foot wide balcony, which is over 10 feet deep. So you're not compromising on outdoor living.
Yeah, and speaking of outdoor spaces, have you seen the penthouse levels with the rooftops? I'm assuming you have, but I love that every home comes with standard with an outdoor kitchen, complete with barbecue and sink, and you even have the option to add a hot tub. It really does take the stress of homeowners when everything is really ready for them when they move in.
Yeah, although it's no surprise, Cressey has extensive experience building exactly these kinds of homes to downsizers who really know what they want, with past projects such as Sterling, McKinnon, Arbutus Ridge, Bellevue, as well as Beverly and White Rock, which is still one of the most sought after communities in White Rock. It's definitely worth a visit to see it for yourself. Rockford just had its grand opening last week, so you can visit Saturday to Wednesday from 12 to 5 or by appointment. But there's a lot to see, so give yourself some time when you come. Okay, I think I'll stop.
Let's take that note to move into the resale stats.
Yeah, how did we start off in 2025, Britt?
Well, it seems the holiday slowdown in December extended right into January, with resale activity declining in both Greater Vancouver and the Fraser Valley when compared to December of 2024.
Buyers usually take some time to re-enter the market after the holiday lull, but January sales remain well below the 10-year seasonal average in both regions. In Metro Vancouver, sales decreased by 12% when compared to last month and remain over 11% below the 10-year seasonal average.
Yeah, and the Fraser Valley did see a steeper decline, with sales dropping nearly 18% from December and 13% year over year, putting January sales over 18% below the 10-year seasonal average.
Yeah, with demand on the decline and inventory on the rise, there are plenty of options out there, and it really is favorable time to be a buyer.
So you're saying the trend of rising inventory followed us right into 2025. This relationship is getting more and more complicated.
It sure did, Britt. Total active listings continue to climb, increasing 5 to 15% month over month and over 30% year over year in both regions.
And to put that in perspective, active listings in Greater Vancouver are over 33% above the 10-year seasonal average, while active listings in the Fraser Valley has hit a new 10-year seasonal high, exceeding the average by 54%.
Yeah, the threat of potential tariffs we discussed earlier in the segment have added to buyer caution, contributing to the growing inventory.
Absolutely, especially now that the additional Bank of Canada rates seem increasingly likely. Buyers are taking their time, waiting to make a major decision and sitting on the sidelines.
Yeah, this is pushing us closer to a buyer's market, which is already the case in the Fraser Valley with a sales to listing ratio of 11%. In Greater Vancouver, the market remains balanced with a 14% ratio. That being said, buyers do seem to have the upper hand right now.
Exactly. And with demand still lagging behind rising listings, now what do you think this means for our pricing landscape moving forward?
Yeah, we've seen little fluctuation in pricing in the month of January when compared to December. In the Fraser Valley, there was a slight year-over-year decline of just over 2%.
Yeah, despite high inventory levels, pricing remains steady, with Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board forecasting potential price increases towards the end of this year. However, they also noted that the economic disruptions could impact those projections.
Future tariffs could potentially lead to more interest rate cuts in the short term, but will that, combined with ongoing economic uncertainty, be enough to boost demand? And will that drive prices up? Or will the lack of demand persist, keeping prices stable or even causing them to decrease? Unfortunately, the impact of the tariffs on the housing market will depend on how things evolve after the current 30-day delay and more details come to light.
Yeah, so for now, what we know is that there are some fantastic opportunities for those buyers out there looking to buy. They should be getting out to see them.
Without a doubt. Buyers just need to be willing to make a decision and get off the fence. On that note, that brings us to the end of this month's Presale Pulse episode. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out our newswire, a daily email roundup of all the breaking news in the world of real estate.
Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next month.